Hi, welcome back to Barely Keto. This week we're going to make an Indian dish, buttered chicken served over roasted cauliflower. It's creamy, satisfying, and delicious. Let's get started. So we're going to start with a marinade today. It's best to do this a day in advance. It's really simple. Everything's laid out here on the counter to get you started. We've got yogurt, a lemon, some spices. The recipe's up on the Google Drive. You can find the link in the description for this YouTube episode. We're going to whisk it all together. Some chicken breasts that we're going to cut up into bite-sized pieces, throw it all in the bowl, and we're good to go. So I'm going to start with the lemon juice. You want about 2 tablespoons, which is roughly half a lemon. You can pour that in. We're going to add in the yogurt, and it's 5% fat. You want the higher fat to get the satiated sensation. Just going to put that in there. I'm watching it behind the camera while I do the voiceover. I'm cheating. P.S. It's the 5th time I've recorded this, so I'm getting a little annoyed. So the spices go in. Very good. I'm going to whisk that together with lemon juice. And it's going to end up almost a paste. That's the consistency that you're going for. You could use 4 chicken breasts for this. If you're my age, you remember when there used to be 4 breasts in a package and now there are only 3. And you want to cut this into, what you consider to be bite-sized pieces, keeping in mind that they're going to shrink a bit when you fry it, because one of the things that you're going to do with the marinated chicken is fry it. So just get that started, put them in there. And this will easily feed, if you add a 4th chicken breast, this will easily feed 4 adults. Now I made this over the course of several days, so I started with the marinade. And you want to just stir that in. And now I'm going to put it in the refrigerator, obviously. And what I found is you want to go back and visit it every 6-7 hours, not in the middle of the night, of course, and then just give everything a good stir. And that's all you have to do, and we're good to go. So now we're going to prep the cauliflower. This is just a basic head of cauliflower. And what I've learned to do is sort of core it much like a tomato, so I kind of go in at an angle and cut out a cone shape. And then once you pull that out, you're able to get most of those base leaves off, because it is hard to de-leaf a head of cauliflower. So that frees everything up. Pop that out of there, get the leaves off of here. And then I go a second pass a little bit deeper, still kind of going to a point at the head of the head. And then that's when the florets start falling off. And then you just want to finish cutting off the florets, put them in a colander, and then give them a good rinse. It's always a good idea to rinse your produce. So I've done that. And now I'm going to cut them up. And again, you want these to be bite-sized pieces as well. So we're going to roast the cauliflower in the oven in a bit. And then this is going to act as your base. I'm not going to lie, it's not as good as rice and some garlic naan, but it does the job. And the sauce is so flavorful. This is now one of my favorite dishes. I modified the recipe a bit between a few different recipes that I found online, and kind of created my own thing. And Jim and I loved it. It smelled fantastic, and it's going to become a regular. So now that's rinsed off, and then you just want to put 2 or 3 tablespoons of avocado oil on there. And the 2 or 3 depends on how much or how many florets you yield from the particular head of cauliflower that you bought. So I think I did 2 for this one, and you just want to make sure it's stirred in there really well. Now, the next step would be to put this on some parchment paper on a rim baking sheet and bake it, but I'm doing this in sections so that it's ready by the end of the day rather than lunchtime. So I'm going to just put this in the fridge for a bit till I'm ready to roast it. And that's it. Now the stove. The first time I've tried doing any kind of a stove setup. That's 2 yellow onions, chopped roughly, and put in with a few tablespoons of melted ghee. And I've had a change of heart about the ghee. It is pretentious, but it's also really convenient. So I like the ghee because it's already clarified butter. So it's not going to burn like if you threw traditional butter from a stick of butter from the fridge in there. And you want to just cook that down for about 10 minutes till it looks nice and golden. And then add in the spices. That's some minced garlic. So we're going to stir that in on about medium heat, medium low. Give that about 30 seconds to bloom. And it was interesting, the onions were very squeaky, like bubble and squeak, which is an English dish. Very cheesy, delicious. All right, so that's about right. And you can tell the color, that's what you're going for there. And again, that took about 10 minutes on medium, low heat. And then we're gonna add some spices in here. People often think of curry as being a very hot dish in terms of the spice palette. There's not a lot of heat in this. There's some, but not much. And it comes from chili powder, which we add in a little bit. So that's just really all about flavor. It's turmeric, garam masala, some other things. And again, you can find the link to the recipe if you look at the description of this episode on YouTube. So this is some ginger paste in a 14.5-ounce can of diced tomatoes. And you could use crushed tomatoes if you want. This whole thing is going to go in a blender and be pureed in a bit. So it really doesn't matter what kind of tomatoes you use. It's just about the fluid and the can size. And then this is some chili powder. And that's where the kick comes in for this dish. Now this cooks down for quite a bit. So this is, in the end, it's going to be on for about 15 or 20 minutes. And during this time, if I were to be making this for us for dinner, like in real time, that's when I would put the cauliflower in the oven to roast while I'm cooking this sauce down. The other thing that would, The other thing that would be different, I thought I was running out of time, is that I would actually fry the chicken first. So there'd be nice little caramelized bits in here. And that's the color you want for your onion. Almost like roasted garlic. So now we're gonna bring this back to the island. The thing I learned the hard way many years ago is if you take something from the stove and then you put it in a blender and you turn that blender on, it's going to basically explode. Not the glass, but the top's gonna pop off and you're gonna get fluid everywhere, including yourself. So I used a Ninja for this because a Ninja seems to breathe a bit better because it's got a really big pour spout, which you kind of just leave unlatched. And the top itself latches down, which is just a bit safer. So if you do have a regular blender, just keep in mind you're going to want to take that centerpiece and give it a twist so it relieves the pressure. You're going to need to scrape it down as you go, so keep your rubber spatula handy. And that's true regardless of whether you're going to use a Ninja or a mixer. I'm sorry, a blender. So I can just say the first 3 takes were better. They just didn't come out with any sound for some reason. And there's the spout I was talking about that lets it breathe. So you just kind of flip that a bit. And there you go. And the consistency at this point is going to be a lot like crushed tomatoes, a little bit thicker. So just get your blade out of the way. And then we're gonna, now for me, I'm gonna put this in a bowl and put it in the refrigerator because I was doing this over a couple different days for the filming. But if you were doing this real time, as soon as you were finished pureeing that, you would just put it back in the pan and then go back to the stove. But I'm breaking it up, I'm cheating. And there's the consistency you're going for. So I'm gonna throw this in the fridge. It's really simple. You want the oven at 425. Now, if you have a convection oven, that does help, but it's not that important. If you don't, you might just want to try to flip the cauliflower, say halfway through. For me, with the convection oven, it keeps the air moving constantly within the oven, so I don't have to. And you just turn that onto your parchment paper. And the parchment paper, the only reason that I'm doing that is it just makes cleanup easier, and it's easier to get it off the pan when you're done. And then you just want to spread it out into a nice even layer. Separate it up as much as you can. And you just want to also make sure that it's well coated with the oil. And then we're going to pop that in the oven. And again, 425 for about 20-25 minutes. You can put spices on it, but you don't need them in this dish. This dish is very flavorful. This poor stove. I think it's only the second time I fried on it. Look how clean it is. So sad. So you're going to get the marinade out, the marinated chicken. And I do it in, I think I used 2 tablespoons of avocado oil. You're cooking in batches, so you might have to add more oil. Just make sure that the pan's ready for you when you put it in. So that was me checking for a nice even heat. And I use a bamboo skewer. And I just, one piece at a time. And I'll put maybe 12 to 15 pieces in each batch. And since you're not cooking this to doneness, it's okay to keep using the same skewer for the entire process for, putting it in from the marinade from the refrigerator and then transferring it from the pan. And I have a 13 by 9 inch glass baking dish kind of above the pan, and I'm just transferring it into that. It's not lined with paper towel because you want to use the juice back in the sauce when you're done. Now this took about 5 minutes per side in the end. And I'll pull it out here in a second, and you can see the color that you're going for. Riveting, isn't it? So there you go. That's the color you're looking for. A nice deep kind of golden brown. There you go. Mmm, tasty. I just dripped some oil on the stove. And as that finishes off, just transfer them to the holding container. And it took about probably 30 minutes for this part. So there you go. There's your roasted cauliflower. It gets a little bit of a char on it, which is fine. It doesn't alter the taste at all. And then I'm going to transfer that to a lined containers because the cauliflower is going to continue to release its moisture if I kind of put it in pause. So I'm going to throw that in this other bin and then put the container in the oven to keep it warm. And then this is my little trick. I often do it with the whole thing, but I've had it ripped too and then thrown cauliflower all over the place. So be careful with that one. And there you go. I'm going to put it in the warming drawer. Here we are back at the stove. So these are the bits you want to keep, but just ditch the oil. There you go. And that's what you would technically cook the sauce in if you were starting from scratch in sequence. So I'm going to put this again over about a medium-high heat. Put this back in from the refrigerator. And then you're going to whisk in a cup of heavy cream. And that's where your sensation of being satisfied is going to come from, all that cream. It's mesmerizing, isn't it? There is something very soothing about watching something get stirred. It's fascinating. So there you go. There I am in my shorts. Just want to combine all that. And then once you get all that where you want it to be with a whisk, you're going to add the chicken back in. So we're going to do that next. So I'm going to grab the container of the chicken, put that in. You just want to be gentle enough that you're not accidentally breaking the coating off of the chicken, and then pour in the reserved fluid. And then we're going to give that a stir. And we're almost done. Now you want to cook this. Now this is the point where you're cooking the chicken to temperature. So I'll check the temperature here in a sec once I get it all distributed. And you want this to simmer. So, find the sweet spot on your burner so it's bubbly but not boiling. If it boils, it's going to turn the cream and it's going to splatter all over the stove. So let's see where we are here. Ooh, not quite yet. And all told, this part took about, I would say, 15 minutes. And you'll see the color change here in a second. It gets this really dark, rich, orangey color. Oh, and we're done. Delicious. Let's go. Technically, we're going to bowl up, but you know, what are you going to do? So I'm going to pop the cauliflower back out of the oven. And you know, you can use your hands or a spatula if you want. Bring the sauce over, and then just put the cauliflower in the bowls and put the sauce over top. And because you did all the prep work on, you know, your bite-sized portions and everything, you can just sit down with a fork and tuck in on this one. And it's so thick, that's a slotted spoon, and the sauce is so thick that it's not, you know, bleeding through. So that's what you're going for, a really nice, thick, creamy sauce. And it smelled fantastic, just from the marinade to the sauce to cooking the chicken in the sauce. The whole house smelled fantastic that day. And this is definitely going to stay in rotation. This was really delicious. And that's it. Buttered chicken over roasted cauliflower.